Missing for weeks, his disappearance now considered a criminal case. On this his birthday, what Dylan Round's family is doing to inspire hope and bring him home.
Every house along here, everyone was in action.
Fire burning up all of this land here in Tooele County this weekend, but it also knocked on the door for some nearby homes and properties.
Tracking strong storms here across the state, especially into northern Utah tonight, where we'll see areas of flooding concerns, plus the timing of a big cool down.
He played a central role in the terror attacks of September 11th. And tonight, the Al-Qaeda leader is dead.
If you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
What we're learning about the U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan.
A revelation from prison.
Laws are useless if they aren't enforced.
Why a new edict from polygamous leader Warren Jeffs is reigniting fears tonight.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Today was Dylan Round's 20th birthday. It was also marking 9 weeks since he went missing near Lucin, Utah. The FBI and Box Elder County Sheriff's Office have labeled this a criminal case. His family wants him found and to spread awareness of his story.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser shows us how people across the country are celebrating him in a special way tonight.
How's it going?
Inside the Bear River Valley Country Store in Corinne.
Good, just the refill?
Yes, sir.
It's a convenience store, hardware store, garden supply shop, you name it.
It's really set up by the farmers for the farmers back in the day.
So it only makes sense this agriculture town wants to help a fellow farmer.
It's one of those industries. It's a good industry to be in. Everybody kind of watches out for each other and helps out where we can.
Dylan Rounds went missing near Lucin, Utah over Memorial Day weekend. In honor of his 20th birthday, his family is asking the country to sow a seed for Dylan.
It's a tribute. It's not a memorial. It's a way we're celebrating his birthday with him. His birthday was always spent in a grain field, in a combine, in a grain cart.
His mom, Candace Cooley, spent her Monday planting sunflower seeds in Oregon.
I know he would love it. So that's why I did it.
She says Dylan grew up planting sunflowers in their yard and at his grandparents' homes.
You know, we don't want to release balloons because we're not looking to the sky for him. We're looking for him here on the ground.
Across the country, from Utah to Idaho, Florida to Kentucky, people touched by his case want to celebrate him. People in towns like Corinne that never even met him but want him found.
His family's really putting forth effort and they want answers. We feel for him. Our thoughts and prayers go out for him.
Back in July, the Box Elder County Sheriff's Department identified a James Brenner as a suspect. He worked on the farm with Dylan and lived nearby. No criminal charges have been filed against him specifically in this case. I reached out to the Box Elder County Sheriff's Department for an update in the investigation and have yet to hear back. In Brigham City, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A suspect is behind bars in Utah County tonight after allegedly starting a brush fire east of Springville. It's called the Springville Fire and has burned at least 25 acres. Deputies say the suspect told law enforcement he was using a lighter to burn a spider when the fire started. After he was arrested, deputies found drugs and paraphernalia in his backpack. No injuries have been reported.
Yeah, keep watering, right?
Tense video here showing residents in Tooele trying to protect their homes and properties as that fire burned fast across the dry field. The Meadowbrook fire started yesterday afternoon.
Fox 13 News anchor Brian Schnee spoke to people in the neighborhood who say this serves as a very real reminder to be prepared.
Help up! Help a little bit, come on! Every house along here, everyone was in action trying to do what they could to keep the fire from getting to the houses.
To get out of there, these things move fast.
Every second, flames seemingly moved closer to these homes in a Tooele neighborhood Sunday night.
She was talking to me through FaceTime, And all of a sudden, the firemen were already there knocking on the door, telling them to get out.
Mark Mooney was at work when the fire sparked. His wife called him from home as the fire moved towards them.
Moments later after that, our fence was already on fire.
The fire moved fast across this field up to this fence line. Come with me in the backyard of this home. You can see the fire also burned the fence in between the two properties and scorched the side of the house.
And then when I saw the side, I was like, oh my goodness. I can't believe it. The fire was right there, it was right on that side fence.
Yeah, keep watering, Ryan.
Fast-acting neighbors armed with hoses. And local firefighters from Tooele City and North Tooele Fire District were able to knock down the flames before they reached more properties. Mark says he and his family will learn from this and hope others do the same.
We need to have an exit plan, maybe a to-go bag ready to go if something, like this happens.
This fire also serves as a very real reminder that having defensible space around your property can save it if fire comes knocking at your door.
It's either you have days, weeks, or months to prepare, or you have literally 10 minutes to get things in order. And you can see people were scrambling around like crazy trying to protect things. If you do it ahead of time, you don't have that much of a worry on your hands.
In this case,
this will move right by us.
Neighbors helping neighbors to keep each other safe. In Tooele, Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The Meadowbrook fire burned roughly 25 acres in the Pine Canyon Conservation Area and was contained that night.
2 homes were damaged. Neighbors believe the fire was human-caused, but officials say it is still under investigation.
Well, what a night out there, Allison. It looked like, at least here at Fox 13 News Studios, it kept wanting to rain, but we never really got anything out of it.
That's right. Utah County is getting all of the rain right now, right through Provo area. As we look even a little further south into Utah County and out into Tooele, look at this. Fairfield, Eureka, all the way up through Tooele right now. Some thunderstorms approaching you up through Stansbury Park. But right now along I-15 from Spanish Fork up through Provo, we've got a nice little thunderstorm that is moving towards the northeast and bringing some gusty wind, some rumbles of thunder, and quite a bit of lightning. So tonight's one of those nights as you're driving, you might see a ton of lightning off in the distance if it's not raining at your location here along the Wasatch Front. But we are expecting some strong storms that have the possibility to produce some heavy rainfall. Flooding is certainly a concern as we head into tonight and tomorrow morning across northwest Utah. So overnight lows here in Salt Lake near 70 in Salt Lake City with scattered thunderstorms. Ogden 67 and for Provo 64 degrees. We'll have those temperatures first thing tomorrow morning, pretty comfortable. With the clearing into southwest and central Utah, we will see some 50s down towards Zion and Manti. And then into tomorrow afternoon, we're only about 80 to 90 for Provo, Salt Lake, and Ogden tomorrow. So enjoy the break from the heat with some more chances for storms throughout our 7-day forecast. I'll let you know how long this cooler weather will last coming up.
Thanks, Allison. New tonight, authorities in Colorado have suspended their search efforts for a missing Salt Lake City man. 22-year-old Daniel Lamthak has been missing since July 17th. He was last seen at a trailhead just south of Silverton in southwestern Colorado. Search and rescue team members spent all weekend long looking for him on the ground, but to no avail. We're told the search effort will remain suspended until more information, signs of Daniel, or clues come to light.
Juab County Sheriff's deputies need your help finding whoever killed livestock in 3 separate suspicious incidents. All 3 cases were in the Levan and Mills area. If you have any information that can help, contact the Juab County Sheriff's Office.
In Layton, 3 people have been arrested after trying to sell fake gold to the chief of police in the local Walmart parking lot. This happened on Saturday. Police believe there are more victims in the area. The suspects had European accents. They claim to need money to care for their young children. If you or someone you know has fallen victim to this scam, call Layton City Police.
A man who had been missing since July 28th has been found dead. Colby Sheriff was last seen near Daniels Summit Lodge in Wasatch County. Police say they found his body yesterday about a mile from his vehicle. The medical examiner's office is investigating the cause of his death. The sheriff's office is extending condolences to the family and friends. We have a link to a GoFundMe page set up for his family at fox13now.com.
Sandy City police say a 17-year-old was the target of a homophobic hate crime over the weekend. Police say the teen was in a residential neighborhood hugging his boyfriend when someone drove by and yelled homophobic slurs at them. Police add the suspect then came back 45 minutes later, yelled more slurs, and then punched the 17-year-old. Sandy police tell Fox 13 News that this type of behavior will not be tolerated in the city.
You target somebody out of just sheer hate. When it meets a hate crime enhancement, you're going to see that take place. We have no room for it in Sandy.
Officers found the suspect on Saturday afternoon. He is also 17 years old. Video of the incident was posted to social media, and police were later able to identify the suspects and place him under arrest after interviewing the victim.
This is a major blow to al-Qaeda.
The U.S. marks its latest win in the fight against terrorism just days before the one-year fall of Kabul.
Up next, how Utah Senator Mike Lee and his political opponent, Evan McMullin, are reacting tonight.
A family of 5 and their pets make it out of a weekend fire safe and sound. How they're moving forward after the place they called home for nearly 20 years caught fire.
Tony Finau's back in Utah after a great 2 weeks on the PGA Tour. We'll hear from the back-to-back champion coming up in sports.
Now to major national news tonight. One of al-Qaeda's top leaders has been killed in a drone strike in Afghanistan over the weekend.
President Biden announced the killing of that leader this evening on television. He was a key planner of the 9/11 attacks. Fox's Madeline Rivera has the latest from Washington.
It's been nearly 1 year since Kabul fell back into the hands of the Taliban. Just days before that one-year anniversary, the U.S. is marking its latest win in the fight against terrorism. Al-Qaeda's leader killed in a successful operation.
If you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
The U.S. taking out the leader of al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, in a CIA drone strike over the weekend in Kabul. 71-year-old Zawahiri was known as the right-hand man to Osama bin Laden, who was responsible for the 9/11 attacks. After fleeing Egypt, the former surgeon served as bin Laden's personal physician and close confidant, becoming the nominal leader of al-Qaeda after bin Laden was killed in 2011. Since the September 11th attacks, the U.S. has offered a $25 million reward for any information or intelligence leading to Zawahiri's capture.
Justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more. People around the world no longer need to fear the vicious and determined killer.
Earlier this year, U.S. intelligence officials located Zawahiri's family living in a safe house and later confirmed Zawahiri's presence there too. The president had been receiving updates since May and even analyzed a model house to investigate the potential impact of the operation. According to officials, 2 Hellfire missiles were fired, killing Zawahiri on the balcony.
A lot of American blood on Zawahiri's hands, and there are a lot of Americans celebrating his demise tonight.
The White House confirms there were no civilian casualties as a result of this strike. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Tonight, reaction is coming in from Utah politicians about this major development. Independent Senate candidate Evan McMullin was in the CIA at the time of the September 11th terror attacks. He says people in America should be grateful for those who put their lives on the line to help make this operation happen. Take a listen.
I think it weakens al-Qaeda tremendously. They, of course, will appoint a new leader. We don't know who that will be quite yet. There are some waiting in the wings. We'll wait to see what that means for the future of al-Qaeda.
McMullin's opponent for U.S. Senate, Senator Mike Lee, also sounding off tonight about what's happened in the Middle East. He posted on Twitter, quote, "Good has triumphed over evil, and the world is better and safer for it."
Comedian and veteran advocate Jon Stewart is calling on U.S. senators to stay on Capitol Hill until they pass the Honoring Our Pact Act. The legislation would expand health care access for veterans who became ill due to exposure from toxic burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan during their military service. The bill was expected to pass with bipartisan support last week until a group of GOP senators voted it down at the last minute.
So my suggestion to this Senate would be, when you come back, if all the members aren't here, keep the lights on, keep the doors open, and don't leave here tonight until you do the right thing by these folks. Simple as that. Don't make this harder than it is.
A senior Democratic aide says a new vote on the PACT Act could happen this week, but senators will also have to vote on 2 amendments to the legislation before they can take a final vote on the measure.
All right, let's go ahead into storm tracker mode right now. A live look from our Oquirrh Mountain Cam. We are seeing a ton of lightning off in the distance right now. This is all facing south, so we're looking down towards Utah County. So this is thunderstorm activity right now, mainly towards about Spanish Fork Canyon. A lot of thunderstorms currently, but we are really seeing a ton of activity right now on satellite and radar. Into the overnight hours, looking at 2 a.m., we'll continue with storms for the Wasatch Front. Tomorrow morning for the Wasatch Front, we have a chance for a very slick drive in the morning. We could see some ponding out on the roads. And then we head into tomorrow afternoon, and we'll still have some scattered storms here across the state. So here's what I want you to know for tonight. Look at satellite and radar. These are the storms that we were just watching. We were looking from our Oquirrh Cam facing south. That was all of this lightning that is lining up from Dugway down through Utah Lake right now. So what we're tracking tonight is the possibility for these storms to A, produce some brief heavy rainfall, B, have a lot of lightning like we've been seeing. You're going to hear some rumbles of thunder, and we'll also have some gusty winds with these storms. So these storms right now are moving towards the northeast, so they're beginning to move into Utah County and the Salt Lake Valley. So we're going to keep our eye on these storms. They are strong thunderstorms. And then we're going to see that chance for a slick ride early tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning, I would just recommend hustling as you're heading out the door instead of just taking your time in case you have any slowing out on the roads. We often see some additional crashes on days where we have morning thunderstorms. So that's going to be a possibility into the overnight hours and early tomorrow morning. Temperature is about 70 for much of the night and tomorrow morning. When you wake up here along the Wasatch Front, 6 a.m. scattered thunderstorms, 8 a.m. scattered thunderstorms, and by 10 o'clock in the morning, partly cloudy sky. So overnight temps really comfortable here across the state, mainly 60s and 70s for Provo, Eagle Mountain, Tooele, Salt Lake, Ogden. For Logan, mid-60s. I think we're hearing some of that thunder here at the Fox 13 news station out by the airport right now. And we're going to continue with that chance for thunder into the overnight hours. Tomorrow afternoon, look at these temperatures, 80 to 90. So that's our cool down. I know it's still hot, but you're going to enjoy it and notice the difference compared to what we just finished up, which was our hottest July ever. St. George, your chance of precipitation is pretty low the next couple of days. Isolated storms possible Wednesday, Friday. Into this weekend, next week, better chances for storms on Sunday and Monday. For the Ogden area, your chance for storms tomorrow widespread. Then by Friday, you're looking at widely scattered storms with chances throughout much of your 7-day forecast. And for Provo tomorrow, scattered storms. Again, you're looking at scattered storms Friday night, and again by Monday. St. George near 100 degrees for your entire 7-day forecast, at least through Sunday. By next Monday, highs near 90. And for the Wasatch Front, 88 tomorrow, warming up again by Thursday, cooling down again this weekend. We'll talk more about our chance for rain here in Salt Lake City later in the hour.
Thanks, Allison. Straight ahead, neighbors are stepping up to help each other after last week's catastrophic flooding across eastern Kentucky. We'll explain the big challenge that crews are now facing in their mission to save lives.
And hundreds of firefighters are trying to contain California's largest wildfire of the year. What the federal government is doing to help when we come back.
In national news, the search continues for hundreds of people still missing following last week's flooding in Kentucky. Governor Andy Beshear says it could take years for the state to rebuild from last week's catastrophic flooding. Dozens are confirmed dead. Crews will face a big challenge tomorrow when temperatures climb across eastern Kentucky.
It's going to get really hot, and we need to make sure people are ultimately stable by that point in time.
Not an easy task there. The water has displaced tens of thousands of Kentucky residents. Many neighbors are stepping up to help one another. The governor estimates it could cost millions of dollars to repair damaged infrastructure across the state.
The McKinney fire is burning near the California-Oregon border and exploded over the weekend, ripping through more than 55,000 acres. 2 people were reported killed, and others were forced from their homes. Crews face an uphill battle with triple-digit temperatures, dry brush, and the possibility of lightning, which could cause even more fires.
It means that we can't predict which way the fire is going to go.
Climate experts say the many fires in the West are being caused by increasingly warm and drier conditions over the past 30 years, and they expect it to only get worse. Today, Vice President Kamala Harris announced a more than $1 billion commitment to help communities, including those plagued by wildfires, face climate risks and become more resilient. The cause of the McKinney fire is under investigation.
Laws are useless if they aren't enforced.
Polygamous leader Warren Jeffs issues a new edict, and it's raising some alarms among former followers.
I'm just thankful for the most that my family's all safe and we're all together.
A family of 5 and their pets make it out of a weekend fire safe and sound. How they're moving forward after their home of nearly 20 years goes up in flames.
It's no secret that Utah is in a drought, but how are people like you and me doing at conserving water?
The Utes start fall camp on Wednesday, and they start the season at Florida. Kyle Woodingham will tell us why that's a good thing for the Utes.
It's not what they actually want to do. They don't feel like they have a choice. There is no consent when it's coerced.
A prison revelation from polygamous leader Warren Jeffs now reigniting fears surrounding the fundamentalist LDS Church.
Some say families are being split up and plural marriages within the group may resume soon.
Fox 13 News reporter Ben Winslow has more.
Fundamentalist LDS Church leader Warren Jeffs may be in prison, but he's apparently still very much in charge. A recent edict issued by Jeffs is alarming some former members of the church.
I have family members who have had their children taken away within the last few weeks. People are being told they're no longer worthy enough to have their children.
This document was put out in the community. It calls for prayers for Jeffs to be released from prison, but also asks for letters with information about his followers, including photos and details about their families. The document calls for some who've been ousted to return, calling on fathers to gather up their children, while Jeffs later suggests those who have sinned will be cast out. He proclaims that marriages will soon take place for those deemed worthy.
There are people being called back to their families that have been faithful and waiting for this call for 10, 15 years or longer, and they're elated. And then I'm hearing some just call and get their family back together, and then they are sent away again within a week of gathering their family up. And then I'm also hearing people that have said, thank you, but no thank you. I've moved on with my life.
Alina Dargar runs a nonprofit that works with people in polygamous communities. Her organization takes no position on their beliefs, but tries to offer resources. She says the edict has brought up concerns for some about what might happen next, and Cherished Families is already getting calls.
We're going to need housing. We're going to need, food and emergency supplies, and it just kind of, it's always a need that's evolving, but we'll see what goes on.
Some ex-members tell Fox 13 News they are worried about families being split apart again and marriages resuming.
I think we're going back to extreme, you're in or out, and where people are going to be cut off and the children are being gathered up.
Jeffs is serving a life sentence in a Texas prison for child sex assault related to underage marriages. Many of his followers have scattered across Utah and the country, abandoning Hilldale and Colorado City for other places. It's a result of political and prosecutorial pressure on the FLDS Church. The Utah Attorney General's office tells me it is aware of Jeffs' latest edict and is looking into it, but wouldn't say any more than that.
Laws are useless if they aren't enforced. And so far, nobody has been really willing to actually enforce the law.
Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A Utah cannabis activist is calling on Congress to wipe out federal cannabis convictions.
Weldon Angelos was a music producer until he was arrested by federal agents for selling cannabis. He was sentenced to a mandatory 55 years in prison. After serving 13 of those years, Angelos' sentence was reduced by President Obama, and he was finally pardoned by President Trump. With cannabis legalization across the country, he told the Senate Judiciary Committee today there is no reason for people to still be serving prison time for it.
National cannabis reform must include 1, the release of federal cannabis offenders, 2, a true expungement and sealing of records, and 3, the creation of meaningful opportunities for the formerly incarcerated upon release. With the comprehensive approach to cannabis reform, we could immediately assist the many of the nearly 3,000 people who are serving federal prison time for cannabis, as well as the tens of thousands of individuals whose lives and futures are haunted by records of cannabis arrests, convictions, and sentences.
Angelos says cannabis convictions are a modern-day scarlet letter. The Senate is considering a cannabis expungement bill.
In Murray, a family of 5 is safe after their home of nearly 20 years caught fire over the weekend.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with the family today, who says their dogs were also saved by firefighters.
There's this one old fireman who just gives us the nicest smile in the world, and he's like, I'm gonna go get your dog for you.
It set up an emotional reunion outside of Aaliyah Johnson's home Saturday night, just hours after her home caught fire. Aaliyah's baby boy is 14-week-old Sammy.
They bring out my little boy, and I was the happiest I've ever been, honestly.
The Murray Fire Department was also able to get the Johnsons' other dog in the house at the time, Pumpkin, out safely as well.
My best friend, my wife's best friend, my kid's best friend. You know, we just a rescue dog.
While everyone is safe, Corey Johnson is now left sifting through the rubble. That was once the home that he and his wife raised their 3 kids in.
Since I was out here working, I didn't notice it, and then I turned around and I smelled that, and I came, and this was just completely engulfed.
Johnson tells Fox 13 News he was burning some weeds in his front yard Saturday night around 6 o'clock when the fire broke out.
I had camping gear in here, so it was like one of those flew off and it broke the fireman's window.
Johnson says he ended up going to the hospital after sustaining second-degree burns on his arm, face, and the top of his head, after he says he tried to go back in the home and make sure everyone was out. Regardless, he's remaining positive, knowing things could have been much worse.
I can rebuild this. You know, I do floor coverings for this. I can't rebuild this right here. You know, my wife is safe, my family's safe, and my family is eternal.
And we're all able to cope with each other and just find refuge with each other.
Now, Johnson told me earlier this afternoon that he has found a temporary place to stay for his family out in West Jordan. Now, in the meantime, a GoFundMe has also been set up for the family. We have a link posted to that on our website, fox13now.com. In Murray, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Coming up, West Nile virus has been discovered in more parts of Utah. We'll show you where and the best ways to stay safe.
And right now, thunderstorms here along the Wasatch Front. What you can expect for the overnight hours, as we see some lightning right now from the Natural History Museum. I'll have your forecast for the overnight hours and the morning commute coming up.
The Utah Department of Health is recommending everyone take protective measures against West Nile virus. The virus is spread through contact with mosquitoes. The health department says that while no human cases have been reported to date yet this year, the virus has been found in mosquito pools in Davis, Salt Lake, and Uinta counties.
Anything that can sit and collect stagnant water is going to be a mosquito's favorite place to hang out and breed, and places for mosquitoes to be able to transmit West Nile to you and your family.
Some recommendations to keep you and your family safe include using an improved insect repellent, also wearing long sleeves and pants as it deters mosquitoes from contact with humans. They also say mosquitoes are most active during dusk and dawn, so avoid being out during those periods of the day.
Utah's fertility rate was once #1 in the country. Now, research from the University of Utah says it's 4th. The Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute reports the state's fertility rate is at 1.92 births per woman, which is down from 2.45 births per woman in 2010. Emily Harris says while the research doesn't say why people are having fewer children, they do see patterns in people's decision to have or not have children.
Higher education in women, higher income households, they also tend to have less children. Teen birth rates are decreasing, which obviously is a very good thing. People are postponing marriage, which can often then lead to people starting to have children later in their lives.
Despite the findings in Utah, the research does show that fertility declined in all 50 states.
It was one of those weeks when rain transformed much of southern Utah, turning dry washes into rushing creeks and lazy streams into swollen rivers. We'll show you.
What a couple of weeks for Utah golfer Tony Finau. 2 straight wins on the PGA Tour, and now he's back in Utah, helping younger golfers maybe accomplish what he's done. We'll hear from the PGA Tour's superstar coming up.
As Utah's drought continues, how are people conserving water, and how well are we doing?
To answer that question, Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph spoke with the Division of Water Resources to find out.
So we have been in drought 8 of the last 10 years, and the drought impacts are really just compounding.
For Candace Hassenjaeger, director of the Division of Water Resources, like the rest of us, she's been seeing and trying to manage Utah's drought.
That being said, because we don't know how long this drought will last, it really is important that we use our current water supplies as wisely as possible.
So the big question is, how are Utahns using our water supplies as wisely as possible? Well, there's a lot of factors there, and individual use data isn't really ready to say for certain yet.
I think we're still waiting for individual reports to kind of be able to answer that question in more detail.
But there is a metric which is showing that Utahns are doing very well at conservation.
What I can say is that we've seen a big spike in programs as far as like our rebate programs that are offered through Utah Water Savers.
Things like taking advantage of flipping the strip, smart controllers, and rebates are all spiking this year in usage, showing that all of us are taking the initiative to individually save water.
Last year, we saved billions of gallons, and we really need to do the same this year.
Credit also in part has to go to the good monsoon season we've been having as well. That monsoonal moisture we're having even right now isn't really helping our reservoir levels too much or get us out of the drought, but it is helping conserve because the grass behind me is able to stay green even with less watering.
And that really saves that reservoir for later use when we need it. So really monsoons help on offsetting demand on our current water supplies.
So as Utahns do their part,
it seems like there's a lot of momentum and interest in how can we be more conservation minded in the long term.
There's always more that can be done.
Asking ourselves to look closer at our relationship with water.
Spencer Joseph.
3.2 million people in this state. We all have the ability, whether big or small, to make a difference in how we use water.
Fox 13 News.
And it'll help us in the long term if we're all a little more water conscious.
Utah.
In the last week, much of Utah dealt with the danger of too much water in the form of flash floods.
And we thank you for sharing video, proof of what was going on around the state. Going in depth this evening, Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth shows us just how big Utah's southern streams became.
It's a geographic irony that the 2 biggest rivers in the state flow through one of the most parched landscapes in the United States. Southeastern Utah has the Green and Colorado, and every now and then its smaller streams steal their thunder because of thunderstorms. Normally placid Pack Creek, flowing out of the LaSalle's south of Moab. A flash flood on Saturday carried burn scar debris, carving southern Utah's landscape. And at Goblin Valley State Park Wednesday, water rushing out of the clefts and canyons of the San Rafael Swell. Traveling back to that time last week, This graph shows 2.5 days, Monday, Tuesday, into Wednesday. The top lines, the Colorado in blue and the Green River in green. The two big rivers standing above two smaller tributaries. The yellow line showing the San Juan flowing in its lazy late summer form, and the red line showing the Dirty Devil. It was a dry ditch until late Wednesday. Now we'll expand our timeline. What you can see are those same 2.5 days before the rain. And now, see the rest of the week. Rain made the Dirty Devil, the red line on this graph, Utah's second biggest river at 2 points in time. And on its heels, the San Juan River became bigger than the Colorado and the Green through most of the week. In the past, the Green and Colorado would be more prone to flooding like their tributaries are. But both rivers are now regulated by a system of dams. In studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Man, that's fascinating stuff to see how the graph, and at one time the Dirty Devil was the second biggest river in the state.
It's incredible.
Wow.
It really is.
We are getting more rain around parts of the state tonight.
Oh yeah, we've got quite the thunderstorm activity happening right now for the Wasatch Front. In fact, the storms right now are producing so much rain that flooding is currently a concern down in Utah County. I want to go ahead and start off with an aerial flood advisory that was just issued a moment ago for minor flooding from Payson up through Springville along I-15, and then especially some low-lying drainage areas that we could see some minor flooding till 11:45 in Utah County with this flood advisory, plus with a couple of strong thunderstorms, one moving through Utah County right now and one that just started moving through the south end of the Salt Lake Valley. These storms are capable of producing wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour, which is enough to cause some damage outside, especially if you've got trampolines that aren't secured, if you have umbrellas that are up currently. And we could see some branches falling off of trees with the wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Plus, into the overnight hours, Utah Lake extremely choppy right now into Utah County. Into central Utah, a few thunderstorms through Spanish Fork Canyon, Highway 6 down through about Wellington and Price. And then for southern Utah, we are dry right now. So the bigger story, chance for the monsoon storms for the Wasatch Front overnight and into the morning drive tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, we're going to have those temperatures around 65 to 75 for Provo, Salt Lake, Ogden. We'll have that chance for some morning time thunderstorms, which could create slick hydroplaning conditions for the morning drive. Salt Lake 88 for a high tomorrow, much awaited cool down. Ogden 83, Provo 87. For St. George tomorrow, you're close to 100 degrees, Ridgefield 89, Cedar City 85 degrees. And for eastern Utah tomorrow, 98 for Moab, 90 in Price, and Vernal, chance for some evening thunderstorms. Now here along the Wasatch Front, our chance for storms tomorrow is most likely during the morning hours with some scattered thunderstorms into the afternoon. And our flash flood potential for our recreation areas is probable for Bryce Canyon and Capitol Reef, and possible for Grand Staircase, the San Rafael Swell, and Zion National Park. St. George, you're close to 100 degrees through Saturday. A little bit cooler on Sunday at 95, 88 by next Monday. You'll have a chance for some storms Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday into early next week. But tomorrow you're hot and breezy. Here along the Wasatch Front, about 90 the next few days. By Thursday, though, you're creeping back closer to 95. By Friday, we're looking at 89 here in Salt Lake City. Let's go ahead and talk about our main weather headlines, because these monsoon storms have that possibility of heavy rainfall. And I'll tell you what, the biggest concerns with our current storm setup will be recent burn scars. I'm especially keeping my eye on that burn scar in Parley's Canyon. So we're also going to want to enjoy the mild temperatures after what was our hottest month ever in Salt Lake City last month. And then we'll keep you close to 90 Saturday into next week.
Well, this was the scene at the Salt Lake Airport last night after Tony Finau won back-to-back tournaments on the PGA Tour. He was at Oak Ridge Country Club this morning for the Tony Finau Foundation Golf Classic to help kick off the Utah Championship. Fox 13's Andrea Urban was there.
Less than 24 hours after his Rocket Mortgage win on the PGA Tour, Tony Finau returned to Utah to host the Tony Finau Foundation Golf Classic Clinic ahead of the Utah Championship.
From Salt Lake City, Utah, Tony
Finau.
Yeah, it means everything to be back home. Utah is definitely home. I love being from Utah. I'm proud to represent Utah. To celebrate this with the state of Utah and everybody that's followed my career, I have such an amazing fan base. Feel the love everywhere I go. To have just accomplished what I have and go through the ranks here in Utah is something that's pretty cool, and I think a lot of Utahns are proud of, and I'm proud to represent everyone.
And obviously a lot of success, a lot of hard work, but do you ever get a second to sit back, look at what you've done, look at what you've accomplished, and kind of pinch yourself and realize that you're doing everything that you've ever dreamed for?
Yeah, these are definitely what dreams are made of. These are all dreams that I've had since I was a kid, and to make them become a reality is amazing. But it's taken immense work. It's taken immense every really emotion that I've had to overcome the adversities I've faced in my life and my career to get to this point in my life. So if I didn't have to live through it, I probably wouldn't believe it. But having the experiences that I've had, it takes a lot of support, it takes a lot of work.
That is really good.
Now that I feel like I'm trending, you just continue to put one foot in front of the other and see where this can take you.
This is a special time in our lives, a special season. And as so, I think we should celebrate it as well.
At the Oak Ridge Country Club, Andrea Urban, Fox 13 Sports.
Well, Utah will start fall camp on Wednesday. The Utes will play one of the marquee games in the season opener at Florida. That matchup's been a big motivation for the Utes this offseason.
When you play a team like Florida, you get your players' attention real fast. And they've been working hard since January, and that's all we've talked about for the last 7 months. And you better be ready to hit the ground running when you go down to the Swamp.
Utah State had their 4th practice of fall camp. The offensive lineman has some studs back. They play a big role in the Aggies' high-powered offense.
Well, big point of emphasis for us, because we're bringing so many guys back, was to improve on what we did poorly last year. So I feel like we made great strides in the spring, and I feel like that's carrying over in the fall camp really well. I'm expecting great things from this offense, and I'm really excited for the season.
So Tony Finau's taking the week off on the PGA Tour, but I can't wait to see him get back there, because I think he's going to win every time he plays now.
Isn't that fun to watch?
He may be onto something.
Yeah, just keep winning. No big deal.
Yeah, well, he's off to a good start.
Yeah,
He seems to have it down.
He said today he never thought once he was going to hit a bad shot in the last couple of weeks.
Isn't that something?
He just thought it was going to go over.
It's all between your ears, Tony. Yeah.
Wow, keep thinking that way. Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Stick around. QuickCast is next.